Welcome to the 2014 edition of the Coach's Corner, brought to you by Pulaski Electric System. I'm Steve Pierce, your host. Along beside of me is Giles County High School head football coach Walt Smith. Coach, here we are, 2014 season's underway.
Excited about it. It got here. Seems like it gets here sooner every year, and this year's no change on that. The weather's finally warming up to the way it's supposed to in summer, and football's about to start, so it's ready to go.
Before we talk about the 2014 season, let's go back to last year. New coach, new staff. You come in here, and it was a little joke between me and you that you really didn't even know where your desk was when you were out there coaching football. But the Bobcats go all the way to the semifinal games and lose to Fulton in a really great Fulton team. Just recap a little bit your thoughts about the 2013 Bobcats.
It's obviously the expectation's always to make it to Cookeville in that championship game, and no matter what team you're on, that's everybody's expectation to start of the year. But last year being the first year here and having a new staff and things, while that was a hope and a wish and an expectation, the road ahead of us was going to be tough to get there. But I felt like the coaches as a staff kind of gelled together as the season went. The players kind of gelled together as the season went, and the staff and players together kind of gelled, and we just kind of got better as the season went on. And hopefully that's a trend that we can start. That's the way championship teams do. They get better as the season goes, and hopefully that's something we can do every year from here on out and have the same result be there in Cookeville with a chance to win it all.
Yeah, it was a great season, Coach. A lot of great memories there. And we ended the season last year a runner-up in the state, silver ball in the case over at Giles County High School. Now we're starting in the 2014 season. Just briefly walk us through as far as from January on to where we are right now. What all has taken place for the Bobcats to get ready for the 2014 season?
Well, obviously the weight room is a huge factor into how good we're going to be this year. And we get back from Christmas break and we start in the weight room. Our guys are really working hard. Worked all the way through up to spring practice in May. Had a great spring practice. Everything was going great. Started into summer. Had the tragedy with Tyson this summer that kind of put us on pause for a couple of weeks there. But the kids have really responded to that. The community's responded unbelievably, and Tyson would have wanted it any other way. They've kind of rallied together again, gelling them even more, I feel like, and finally got 7-on-7 back this year. That really helped us, I feel like, to prepare for the season. We went against some really good teams, as good as anybody in the state, all summer long, and I think that's helped us to get to where we are now.
Coach, one thing you talked about it earlier, the staff gelling. How important was it that you were able to pretty much bring back the core nucleus of your staff? You bring it back for 2014.
Definitely important. We've got a couple new faces, and we've moved a couple people around to different positions, but just the staff becoming more familiar with each other, being on the same page, speaking the same language. There's 1,000 different ways to call a slant route. There's 1,000 different names you can use, and that's some of the things we struggled with last year. Is we'd be talking the same language, but be saying it in different words and had to talk through that. It just took us a little longer to get to where we wanted to be, and now we've got most of that worked out. And I got a couple of new guys on staff, and I really like where our staff is and where it's going in the future.
Well, Coach, leading up to last Friday night, there was a lot of excitement. You brought it up a little bit, the loss of Tyson Marks in a tragic car accident. It's sort of a special season in a way. This is Trent Holt. This is his senior class, and then the loss of Tyson Marks. Let's just go ahead and start talking about the football game Friday night. Just a lot of emotion going on the first half and the kickoff.
It really was. This senior class and all these guys that knew Trent and Tyson have been through more than a lot of kids can handle this summer and throughout the last few years. And Friday night was that all that emotion kind of spilled out into one event. And I'll be honest with you, the first 2 or 3 minutes of that game was very emotional on the sidelines. The locker room was really emotional. I'm not one to say that the higher power determines the wins and losses of a football game, but for Boone to make a mistake right there on that opening kickoff, and then for us to go out there with 10 men to start that game, and us to get the ball right back. Sometimes you think, well, maybe there was a higher power that just took care of Boone right there and fixed that mistake for him. So, it was a great night. I thought everything was positive about it. You've got to go through those emotions that we went through Friday night when anything like that happens, and felt like our kids responded well and were able to get the W, and that's always good.
Let's talk a little bit about the first half. In the first half, there may have been some questions about the defense and offense. Of course, it's the first ball game, Coach. It's got to make you nervous. You practice, you scrimmage, but it's the first game it really counts. There were some question marks about the defense, new players. They come on the field. They kept us in the game the first half Friday night.
Absolutely. It was kind of a war of attrition the first half Friday. Both defenses were a little bit ahead of the offenses, just kind of back and forth, trading punts. Not a whole lot of turnovers, but both teams just playing really good defense offensively, not being able to execute exactly like they wanted to. Thought Lincoln County did a good job keeping us from getting the big play. They were going to keep everything in front of them all night and make us drive the field, and we weren't very patient the first half, and that contributed to the score being 0-0 at halftime.
One person I want to talk about, one player that I thought played a key role in the first half Friday night, Griffin Birdsong, the punter. He had at least 3 good punts in that first half, changed field position. I think that was one of the key factors that led to the score being 0-0 at halftime was the special teams.
Absolutely. Griffin did a great job. I know the one, he hit one 51-yard punt, and it was right after we had got a holding penalty and a sack on back-to-back plays, and they had kind of flipped the field position because of that penalty and that sack. And he stuck a 51-yard punt and flipped the field back to them. I think he averaged 35 yards on the night net punt. So anytime you can get over 30, it's a good night, I feel like. And we were just over 35 for the night. I thought he did a great job. Hit all 3 of his extra points in the second half. But I agree, the punting, that's the hidden yardage in there. Those punts, covering punts to making tackles on punts. That's that hidden yardage that a lot of people don't see in the paper on Saturday. But it makes a big effect on the game.
And one thing that I know as a fan, and you're sitting there watching a ball game, a coach goes into the locker room at halftime. You really couldn't have been happy with your offense at halftime. So a lot of times you hear the fans asking each other, I wonder what the coach is telling them at halftime. So, I know it varies from game to game, but let's go back to last Friday night. At halftime, your boys were emotional, making some mental mistakes. What'd you tell them at halftime?
Well, it wasn't, sometimes you got to go in there and give that fire and brimstone speech, and it wasn't really one of those, although us and the offensive line did kind of, we kind of put a challenge out to the offensive line, but it was just little things. Like I said, being patient. Running backs, a lot of times we're trying to bounce the ball outside and go to the house on every play, and sometimes you just got to lower your shoulder and get 3 yards. So I tell the guys all the time, 2nd and 6 is a whole lot better than 2nd and 10. And a lot of times, if you can just get us to 2nd and 6 instead of trying to bounce it outside and saying 2nd and 10, then that next play can be that big play. So we fixed a few minor mistakes defensively. We told them to keep doing, made a couple of adjustments to things they were doing, and offensively we just talked to them about being really patient and staying on your blocks. And then, like I said, we kind of called on the offensive line to kind of wanted to wear Lincoln County down, because we felt like that's where we had the advantage. They had a few more guys going both ways than we did, and we felt like that's where we could take advantage of it, and I felt like we did that in the second half.
Coach, we start the second half, we're kicking off to Lincoln County, and the Bobcats kick the ball to Lincoln County, and they return it all the way to the house for a touchdown. As a football coach, what's your thoughts when something like that happens to start the second half?
Yeah, it's definitely never what you want to start the second half, but we went through some adversity in one of our scrimmages the week before at Warren County, and we kind of talked about how can you handle adversity. Bad things are going to happen in a football game, and the week before in the scrimmage they didn't really handle them real well, but I felt like Friday night that was a bad thing that happened. There was a block in the back that wasn't called on that, and the guy went to the house and put them up 7-0, but our kids did a great job handling that and bouncing back and taking the ball straight back down the field and answering them.
Coach, whenever you look at the players on your team, and we'll talk a little bit more about them here shortly, but there's some of those players on that team, Cameron Ordway, Dontarius Gilbert, Lucas Harrison, some others. They played Greenville at Greenville in a hostile environment. They played Fulton a couple of times. They've played a lot of big road games to where they've been behind under really big lights as far as the importance of the game. You just mentioned it, having a team that can face that adversity and come back. Talk a little bit about your leadership.
I thought the leadership was great. You know, our old coach told me one time before that you'll only go as far as your seniors will take you, and I felt like Friday night in several big situations in the game, we had seniors step up and make plays that either got us first downs or kept them from getting first downs, and bounced us back like the answer on the drive. I think Lucas, Dontarius, and Cameron, all three had catches on that drive. Two of them were big third down catches to keep the drive alive. And, you know, it just the way they handled adversity Friday night and just kept plugging. You know, even with the weapons we have on offense, there's going to be times when things just aren't clicking, and you just got to stay at it. And Friday night was a good example of that. They did a great job staying at it and overcoming that adversity.
So the Bobcats, they come away a victor, scoring 3 touchdowns in the second half. But Lincoln County, like in 2013, again in 2014, a very proud, storied program. You know, does that sort of send a message to your kids? You know, the other team, especially Lincoln County, they wasn't just going to fold it up and go home. They fought to the end.
Absolutely, you know, and we know when you go to the championship game the year before, you're going to get everybody's best game the next year. Everybody wants to knock that guy off the top of the mountain. And I felt like we're going to get Lincoln County's best game, and we're going to get everybody's best game. I feel like our schedule's tough. We play some really good teams, and teams are going to be, with the history of success that we've had the last 4 or 5 years, we're definitely going to get everybody's best shot.
Yeah, and we've talked a little bit about that. Whenever you come and watch Giles County football now, you're seeing a really good ball game. We do get everybody's best shot, and they're going to be tight games. They're going to be tough games. It just seems like anticipation builds every week for the next opponent.
Yeah, I jokingly told a fan leaving the stadium the other night that we didn't want to make it too out of hand, that we didn't want everybody to leave at halftime. But that was nowhere near the case. Lincoln County had a great game plan and come out, and everybody we play, again, they've got talented players too. They practice all week, and it should be a good game every week this year.
Coach, let's talk about some of the players on your offensive line this year. You graduated your center, Kelly Donnelly, last year, and you've had to sort of rebuild, move your offensive line, and it's still a process that they're still moving players around. But talk about some of the players, your linemen.
Well, Caleb Clem took over the center role, and he was actually missed a big portion of summer camp for us with a knee injury, and was able to come back on the day before the game Friday night, so we was definitely glad to get him back. But he's kind of the anchor in the middle and has kind of become a really vocal leader for the offensive line over the summer. I had a really good summer, went to some camps and did some things, and to his right we've got Deron Ballantyne and Will Turner right now that's starting up front, and to the left we've got Mackenzie Majors and Jared Roberts. Mackenzie's been there. This will be his third year starting in that spot, and the other guys are kind of new. Will and Deron got some reps last year, and Jared's a sophomore that's kind of stepping into that role. But we've got some other guys that are also backing them up and getting a lot of reps. Jaquez White's another sophomore that's getting a lot of playing time. Chris Allen's a senior that transferred to us 2 years ago from Murfreesboro that's kind of helping us fill in some roles and give some guys rest. So the O-line is definitely, it's always going to be a working process, progress with injuries and knickknacks and things that you get all season long, but they're starting to come together and getting better, I feel like, every day.
That's good. The running back, Jordan Tucker. Jordan ran number 24. He ran really hard the other night, Coach.
He did. Had some really good runs. The run to start the last drive we had down our sideline, I felt like may have been a signature run for him. He broke about 4 tackles in the backfield and ended up getting about 12 yards right there on that first play. And he's a hard-nosed runner and does have the breakaway speed. But this offseason really gave him that extra strength so he could run through some of those arm tackles. And I think that's going to be the difference in his year this year.
Before we talk about the other receivers, you know, I just got to single out Lucas Harrison all by himself. Lucas, a 4-year starter. Friday night, he sort of did what Lucas Harrison does, and he's done it for 4 years. When you absolutely, you talk about a player that you can hang your hat on, Coach. When you absolutely had to have it, it seemed like you were calling number 10's number.
Yeah, he, the last year he played with a torn labrum the whole year that a lot of people didn't know about, but that same injury sidelined several guys. The running back from Beach, the Hurd guy that's at Tennessee now, he didn't play all of last year, and him and Lucas had the exact same injury, but Lucas played through it. And Lucas, Friday night may have been one of the best all-around games I've ever seen Lucas play, and a couple of other people have told me that because not only was he a spark on offense, and he's always going to be one of our main cogs on offense, but he played quite a bit of defense and made several key plays for us on defense, and then on special teams. He's our long snapper, our holder. He does a whole lot of things for us right now, and that's what seniors are supposed to do.
Your receiver and slot receiver positions, Cameron Ordway pulling double duty. You had Doc over there, Dontarius Gilbert over there, and the young sophomore Tanner Holly, along with a few more. Talk about your receivers just for a second.
Well, those three that you mentioned, again, Doc and Cameron are just they're too good not to play on offense. They're great defensive backs, and they'll play at the next level on the defensive side of the ball, I believe, but they're just too athletic not to be over there and get the ball some, and they showed that Friday night. A couple times they did get it. Cameron had 2 touchdowns. Doc has a couple of good runs, and actually had a couple blocks that sprung Cameron on his touchdown run there. But those two are definitely guys that we're going to lean on all year. I thought Tanner Holly made a big catch early in the first half to keep a drive going, and he's always going to be there for us. Blake Gentry had some good reps for us, and blocking and running the right routes and things like that. So we've definitely got some guys we can mix in. Nate Alslup's starting to learn more of the offense, and he's going to get some reps and some carries, things like that as we go. And then our backup running backs with Cliff Garner and Arkell Reed. Those two guys are battling, to rest Jordan, because Jordan's having to play a lot of defense as well at times. So I feel like our offense, we've got a bunch of weapons, and the biggest problem we'll face is getting all of them the ball enough as much as we need to.
There you go. And then we'll move to the last position on offense, Trevor Holder. We've watched him in the 3 scrimmage games this season. Coach, he really looks like he's stepping up as a senior, making some good decisions and good reads out on the field.
Well, he's always been a physical presence on the field. He's always had a strong arm, always had a big, strong body to run with, good speed. But I felt like one thing this offseason that he did, and again, I think the 7-on-7 helped him with this, is understand that we don't have to score a touchdown on every play, and sometimes it's best just to throw the ball away and move to the next play. And I think he's matured really well, and as a senior supposed to before their senior year. But he's done a great job at just taking the check down route, throwing it out to the back in the flats and letting them get it instead of trying to throw the ball over the top of the defense real good. Every time you run a play, and I feel like that's where he has kind of grown as a quarterback, and that's going to be a big difference for us this year.
Let's scan over the defense real quickly. The front floor, the down linemen on the defense, so important to making Coach Barger's defense work. Talk about their play Friday night.
Well, Trey Turner had as good a game as a defensive tackle as I've ever seen Friday night. I felt like, Marcus Ray last year had a couple big games in the playoffs for us, playing out there at that end spot. But a lot of times your inside guys on defense don't get a lot of attention because they're usually drawing double teams and getting blocked where the runners are running around them, and they're just occupying blocks. But Trey, I think he ended up with 6 tackles, 3 for a loss, and a sack. He had an unbelievable night, and that's, again, one of those seniors stepping up and making that play for us. He anchors the defensive line. DeAndre Nelson, a guy that didn't play last year, kind of stepped in, and he's playing that one technique for us. Then Matthew Langford is our end. He started 15 games last year as a junior. He's definitely a guy that helps us on that edge to help replace Marcus and soften the loss of Tyson this summer. And then on the other side, we've kind of rotated a bunch of people. We've had Mackenzie Majors there. Kobe Beats has played there, and I think Kobe will end up settling into that spot so that we can rest Mackenzie and play him just on offense. But as the year goes, I think Kobe can be somebody that helps us definitely anchor that line, and that's a big front four that we've got right there. So a couple other guys we've got. Big D. McElroy is a sophomore that's going to play a bunch in there. freshman Devontae Murphy's possibly going to see some playing time in there, and Cliff Garner's also going to be some at that end spot for us.
The middle linebackers, you moved Boone Gibson last year. He actually played in a position last year that an outside linebacker that really wasn't his natural position. He moves inside with Quantez Appleton. Talk about your linebacking crew as a whole, inside, outside linebackers.
Those two, Boone and Quantez, you look at them and we're going to look as good as anybody at linebacker for sure. The way they just carry themselves, their physique, the way they run. They're two solid linebackers. Again, moving Boone inside, he's having to relearn some of the reads and things, but him and Quantez are progressing well and are definitely going to be the anchors inside there for us. On the outside, we've got Nate Alslip at one kind of a hybrid strong safety type on one side. The other side, we've got Tyler Reynolds starting right now. Lucas is backing Nate up, and Jordan Tucker is backing Tyler up at the Scorpion side, what we call Scorpion, the other outside linebacker. But those guys are going to mix it in. Inside, Nathan Bryant's going to be backing up some of those inside linebackers guys. Him and Wesley Hamlet are going to be two of the guys that back up Boone and Quantez, and they're young guys that have got to get some good reps under their belt, and because we're going to need them down the road with people banged up.
Coach, and last, we'll move to the secondary. As a coach, you look at the Bobcats, and it's got to make you feel good whenever you're coming into the season. And the two players that you've got back there have been 4-year starters. Whenever you've got Dontarius Gilbert, we call him Doc, and then you've got Cameron Ordway back there. And if I'm an opposing coach, how would you face it if you looked over there and seen them? You just really don't want to throw the football too much.
Yeah, it definitely makes you think, okay, how can we run the ball differently? Because every time the ball goes up in there, I feel like we've got a shot at just as good a shot as catching as the offense does. Dontarius and Cameron are two guys that are definitely going to play at the next level somewhere next year, and being recruited by a lot of people. Obviously, Cameron's recruiting's been in the news all over the place, and Doc's getting a lot of guys. I tell people a lot of times if Doc was a half-inch taller, I think both of them would be being offered by every SEC school. Sometimes the recruiting's hard to figure sometimes, but I feel like they're both as talented as anybody that we'll ever step on the field with this year, and it definitely makes us strong on the back end. Blake Gentry and Alfred Westmoreland are battling out. They're both sharing time at that other corner and doing a great job. And Tanner Holly's coming in to help us in the secondary also back there to rest Doc. And sometimes we'll move Doc over the corner and put Tanner at safety just to give us both Cameron and Doc on those corners if we face guys with two good receivers.
Well, the Bobcats 1-0 for the 2014 season. A victory over Lincoln County last Friday night. This place was really rocking. Lincoln County brought quite a few folks. Bobcats, huge home crowd as usual. Bobcat band to go, cheerleaders, a concession stand cranked up. It was a great night, Coach.
It was absolutely. It was great to be back in the Brickyard. It just the atmosphere here to me is unmatched with the great stadium we've got, the great press box we've got, the great fans we've got. Everything about it to me is the picture of what high school football ought to be, and it's just great to get back into it.
Yeah. All right, this week, the Bobcats, you're a graduate, Lawrence County High School, and we're going over to take on your alma mater at 7 o'clock this coming Friday night. The Bobcats travel over to Lawrence County for a non-district game, but a long-time rivalry game, Coach. One that I played in against Lawrence County, one that you played in against Lawrence County. It's a game that everybody looks forward to every year, the Cowbell game.
Yeah, it's again, it's one of those old rivalries that you hope can and has withstood the test of time throughout, and you hope it continues to do it with all the realignment and the different district changes you go about as the TSSAA in the state grows. This is one of those rivalries that has withstood that test of time, and it's always good to get together for the Cowboy game, and this year will be nothing different.
Coach, Lawrenceburg historically wing T team, like to run the football. Don't necessarily throw it a lot, but they're very good at running the football.
Absolutely, they got a big strong fullback and 2 or 3 real fast kind of scat backs back there in the backfield. The quarterback's a real smart kid, makes good decisions. They're not going to throw it a whole lot, but they're good up front. They run the football well, and their backs do a good job reading the blocks. And so they're going to pound it on you, try to shorten the game, and make it a shorter game, and have a shot at the end. And they're good at what they do.
Coach, defensively, what do you see in the Wildcats?
They're pretty similar to what they've been in the past. They've got a couple guys up front. I know they've got a defensive tackle that a couple small schools are looking at. A really good player there. A couple guys in the secondary that can definitely run, and the kid that plays quarterback is also one of their strong safeties. He's a really good kid. So they'll definitely get after us on defense. I know Coach Marston does a good job with the defense over there, and we'll definitely have to execute to move the ball against them.
So this Friday night, 7 o'clock, the Bobcats travel to Lawrence County. We need these Bobcat fans out in droves. That 12th man is so important, Coach.
Absolutely. You know, just again, for the kids to look up in the crowd and see a big crowd, it's a motivational thing for them. They don't want to let those people down that have drove that way to see them. And we've got 3 straight road games here, so I guess our fan base is going to be tested a little bit to see if they're going to follow us.
This has been the Coach's Corner, brought to you by Pulaski Electric System. Come support the Bobcats this Friday night, Lawrence County. We will see you there.